So I think there were first, I just wanted to share that if under our proposal, the the FTE that would remain in human resources, like that position would pick up the district-wide duties that are currently being performed. And the district would obviously have the responsibility to train employees for that new position. So they would stay, there and in that opening, I'm calling it with air quotes.
To be clear, they would take over grant management and grant writing, which is another thing that I currently do.
Well, the duties that are district wide that are not, represent OSCA representational duties would be absorbed back into the human resources department.
Like I said, my concern is, if I have been doing grant writing and grant management that benefits the entire 4J employee lot, right? That's MAPS license classified. And so what I don't want is for the entire district to feel that loss if nobody is doing
Yeah, we're
grant
not.
writing and grant management for employee wellness.
Yeah, we're not contemplating any loss of service to employees. This would be, you know, a gain for the union to have a 1.0 on full release. We don't anticipate a reduction in services the district's offering through this. It'd be extra on association support. It's kind of the way we view it. I mean, there's a job description for this position, so it would, transfer over the
What job
district-wide
description are
duties.
you referring to?
Sorry?
What job description are you referring to? Like the classified benefits coordinator job position, which wouldn't necessarily transfer over.
The portion of the
Wow.
district-wide duties, not the representational type
Okay.
duties, but the district-wide duties or the HR type duties or the
I really do want you all to know that everything that that will be transferred over is work that I have built. Just so that you know, like that was my blood, sweat, and tears. That was my heart and soul. That was me going and repeatedly asking, like, what more can I do? Here's an idea I have to expand something for all 4J employees or classified employees, and worked with the benefits administrator and and greatly expanded what all 4J employees receive is benefits. That is my work that I did. That is what I built. So I just want you to recognize that if this transition occurs, you are taking what I have built of my own doing, right? Not directed by somebody, but my ideas, my heart, my soul into the people of this district and handing it over to somebody else. It, I just don't want that lost. I think that it is appropriate to recognize the impact.
I think it's important too that, like Sally's saying, she had initiative and collaboration and ideas that she was able to move forward. And so someone who would be inheriting that work wouldn't have that anymore. Like there wouldn't be that same level of initiative to take on something new. And just jobs wise and classification wise, I'm pretty sure we should check that grant writing wouldn't fall into the pay grade of an HR2 generalist. Probably. I think it's a different pay grade. Um, and so when you're talking about just transferring things over, like who's going to take on some of those tasks that would be a different pay grade if someone took them over? This isn't an easy, just like wipe it away and assign it to someone else. That's not what goes on with.
That's not what we're saying.
Well, it kind of feels like it. So
We're trying to react to the proposal from you all that we received we're trying to react to the strong
Mm.
interest that you all have
Mhm.
to have parity with EEA. And I don't think any of these are issues that we can't, address in a way that would work for both sides. So we're trying to have the conversation to figure out how to make it work. That's what we're trying to do right now. We hear you. So it's helpful to hear what you're sharing. Um, I think we also I think we just need to better understand your proposal. How would it work? On the classified benefits coordinator side of things.
Our intent with the classified benefits coordinator proposal is not to change realistically how anything works with the position, except that half of the funding would come from the medical insurance reserves.
And
And
it,
that should someone new need to be hired into the position, the joint benefits committee would be involved in that selection. That's really bare bones. That's all the proposal is really intended to do.
Well, then why are you proposing to change it when right now the district's funding it?
In part because we are engaging in problem solving to see how we can meet the interest in also having the president release partially covered by the insurance
I'm not
reserves.
tracking. I mean, we pay 1.0 full time for the current setup. And if you're saying we're going to do the current setup, but it's going to switch, I'm struggling to understand how that comes
So-
back.
so before, when the classified benefits coordinator, before it changed in 2021, it was set up. We want it to revert back to how it was originally set up, which half was paid from the reserves and half from the general fund. And there was more latitude in the idea of it being a union negotiated position. And so I believe that previous presidents were always on the hiring committee, making sure that it was a member that was actually doing the work. And so there was a level of collaboration that is slightly different now with the position being fully under the umbrella of HR, which it doesn't really feel like it's always under HR. Our benefits coordinator is outside of that department, like housed somewhere different, not included in all of the meetings that HR has. And so putting it back the way that it was originally intended was our goal.
Whose direction and control would the position be under?
I believe the job description actually refers to risk management and JVC.
Yeah, Jamie should.
And the job
Miss Tony's under.
Mhm.
I'd like to see an old.
From 21, I think.
I believe it's the one I believe the 2015 one is the one that crops up on the website from when I've gone to look for it myself.
I never received an updated. So if you have something from after it changed. Sorry, I just wanted to.
Yeah.
But this is the one prior to changes, so if that helps you. At all, I'm happy to fill that too.
Believe the 2015 one is the one that's on the website. Because I believe that's the one that I've seen when I've gone looking for it. And that's where I usually go to find the job descriptions. So I know. I just wanted to say, like, if folks are looking for it, it's also there. But yes, I would also like to see an updated one if there is one, because that's the place where I go to find them.
I'm a little confused just because I'm hearing nothing would really change, but then I'm hearing, well, we want to go back to how it was.
Everything.
How it was allowed OSEA to be part of the selection and hiring process, which is important because this was a union negotiated position that was created as a service to classified staff, right? Fought for by our union. And so OSEA would like to go back to where they did have a say in that selection process. There was criteria, which I don't know if it still exists, right? because of the changes that a classified employee to be able to apply for and get hired into the classified benefits coordinator position had to be a district employee for at least 5 years and meet the qualifications. And that is important because you are serving the classified group, to have that experience and that perspective when you're going to the role to serve as a resource to classified employees. But like I said, OSEA being able to have a say and be part of that hiring process, that interview process, the selection process is important. In addition to that, the Joint Benefits Committee, which again is a union negotiated committee, right? There's bargaining language in there. Had a role in directing the classified benefits coordinator to ensure that the duties that were done were serving classified employees, or if the Joint Benefits Committee, which manages the reserves, thought that there might be something else that the benefits coordinator could do, right, to serve the classified folks, they could recommend that to the benefits coordinator and direct that work as well. So it just puts some more, I think, ownership back to OSEA and the OSEA negotiated committees to direct and ensure that this position is serving classified staff.
And it's also to ensure that the person doing the job is a member of our union and understands the contractual things that we negotiate. And so in that position, they're representative of other union members.
You look confused, so I'll offer some clarification real quick. Why that's important is because the benefits coordinator is part of the jobs is to manage the classified sick leave bank, right? Which is in our contract. It's a union negotiated benefit. The benefits coordinator also manages the professional education program funds, a union negotiated benefit, right? So there are overlaps in union work and what the benefits coordinator does.
My confusion is that, I guess, to just ask plainly, why would it not be a 0.5 district directed position and a 0.5 union release position where the position would be under the direct supervision and control of OSEA? Because I mean, those interests that you've shared, there's several points that are direct union support. I mean, that's you have to understand that can be awkward for if someone is, well, I guess that's just the question. Why haven't you proposed it as a 0.5 release?
Because we wanted it to just be the way that it was before. We don't want necessarily that Sally would, or a benefits coordinator would just, she has a full-time job just with what she's doing. And if the idea is to keep doing what she's doing, like there's not going to be extra time to just leave for half the time and do something other additional duties on top of the full-time work that is already being performed.
But I'm hearing that a lot of that work is direct support to union members in basically a union representational role. So it's not like saying there'd be extra added
So there's
on.
a difference between bargaining unit members and a member of OSEA. So to be clear about that, so Sally supports the entire bargaining unit in her position. The OSEA member piece is the input from OSEA in the hiring process, and that it is a member of the union. There's a distinction there. So it's not that she's only supporting members of the union. She's supporting all classified and the entire district based on the comments from earlier.
But if it was a halftime release, obviously OSCA would make the selection on who the person would be that would fill that. So
I guess I'm not following what you mean by a halftime release here.
Well, just because it's the proposal is for a position that's half paid by the district and half paid by JBC. So it seems logical that half the position could be district work and half the position could be on release and could be OSCA directed, and
I
it
think
would
I see where you're coming from
Yeah.
here. I think where maybe we're having trouble coming at this is that I think in many ways the classified benefits coordinator position occupies that space where union support around benefits and district support around benefits get kind of pulled together in a little bit wishy-washy, if for lack of a better term. So I'm not sure that we have a solid sense that there would be an easy split in terms of like what is district directed about the services that the classified benefits coordinator provides and what is more on the OSCA directed side,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah.
And being the person in the position, there would be really no way to easy 50-50 split that.
I hear that. And I mean, those are the exact reasons that
No.
are informing our proposal, to just make it a release and say, I mean, at that point, we're not directing or controlling it. OSCA is. So we're kind of right.
Right. I will say that in the district's proposal, it is also kind of getting rid of the bargaining unit position with its associated salary and saying that whomever occupies that position will be paid at the rate they are on leave from.
Well, we're not
Um,
getting rid of any positions. We would not be. That FTE would remain.
Right. I hear that. I hear that piece. But I do just want to flag that, like, if then that is opened up to anyone to be doing this work, say we've now got a 20-hour-a-week transportation employee who is taking on the benefits coordinator role, that's a benefits liaison, I suppose, in this case. That's a lot of work and benefit that has been done historically by a 8-hour-a-day, 12-month employee that would now potentially be being done by a 4-hour-a-day school year calendar employee. And that's not going to meet the same needs. So it's also kind of, I think, what is animating some of our reaction to your proposal as well, is that feels like a significant change in what would be possible for the benefits liaison as a role. I hear that some of although I know we were just talking about how they're not necessarily easily separable, but some of the like not necessarily union related activities would be subsumed elsewhere by HR. But as we were just discussing, that delineation is perhaps a bit complex in this situation, and then that becomes a problem if, we end up with someone who's not employed at a significant hour or calendar commitment, and then is trying to cover these things in free time, perhaps.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for providing that information. It's helpful to understand your position. Do you have any questions that you want to ask in this discussion that would help us evaluate our position?
I do have a question. So when you're talking about potentially a 50-50 split, 50% district work and 50% release, what would the benefits coordinator be released from?
That's not our position or our proposal. I mean, honestly, when I first
That's what you
said,
a hypothetical. So that's why I'm asking.
yeah,
like,
when I first read it, I thought that's
Yeah.
what it meant, but that's not what it means.
Okay.
We're not strongly interested in that
Okay.
really, so I don't.
okay.
I mean, we
when you
can
were like,
try
why
to-
aren't you proposing that? I'm
yeah, I'm
like, what
trying
would
to
the
just
release be from? So that's
Yeah,
where that
we didn't really know what it
doesn't
meant.
work. Yeah.
The 0.5 until you just described it. So it was just kind of a thought exercise to get it, which that is helpful. Kind of get that now.
And like she said, we're not interested in changing the scope of the work, just reverting back to how it used to be. So that full-time release doesn't work for OSEA as it does for EA. Parity doesn't always work, right? So what we're looking at more is equity. And so that's why our proposal matches of 1.0 FTE coming out of the reserves. That's the equity we're looking for, right? Because EEA's benefits coordinator, when that was originally negotiated, was completely different, right? So they went back to their old language that works for that bargaining unit, where that does not work for our bargaining unit.
And as one last piece, I know a lot of the pieces that we're talking about reverting to kind of center around selection. And obviously there's an incumbent into the position that's not necessarily looking to move at any point. But part of the interest in this proposal is to, revert back to some language that we think makes this position sustainable as a support for classified staff generally, and also as a union benefit specifically.
You got to know, like, I'm not speaking on the team's behalf right now, but when I hear that, I think, well, then they should be on release. I struggle when I hear that this is a union direction for the union benefit. Well, why don't we just release it so that can function correctly? It just makes me nervous from a really practical perspective and please, way hypothetical land. Okay, so just bear with me for a second. What if there's an issue that comes up? What if we have to correct a problem? What if we have to go down a disciplinary road? And I mean, the overlay of like that's why I'm trying to ask some of these questions around direction and control and like, is it a union position? Is it not? Are you engaged in union activities? Like, do we even, I mean, that makes my head personally spin a little bit. So that's kind of where I'm personally coming from on that.
I hear you. I will say also, and we talked about this a little bit this morning with the hour caps and whatnot. When Sally is engaged in protected union activity, she is currently putting in for district release because she's not doing per se union activity, right? She's engaging in the work that she is contracted to do as a benefits coordinator to provide information and support around benefits. And that's what she does for 8 hours a day. And when she steps out to support an orientation or a disciplinary meeting or whatever, she's on district paid release time.
That makes sense.
So it's not a union benefit in that sense. What it is that what we're looking for is union input on someone who is communicating about contractual benefits. Because we think that the best way to make sure that that is both something that is directed by the employer, but something that meets the interests of the union is to have a joint committee do the selection of that employee. Does that track?
Yeah, no, I understand your position there. I do. Okay. That's kind of a lot to digest. So, and it's some of the stuff we were kicking around during our caucus, but we really appreciate the direct conversation on this so that we can help understand what your interests are and what supports your position and frankly what it means. It's good to hear.
I think that those are a concern that that would happen potentially in hypothetical land is a removal of certain aspects of what Sally or benefits coordinator has access to right now. And so when you're helping people with retirement or benefits and suddenly you don't have those resources anymore to access to help people, whether it's their data or their sick leave balance or whatever it is, like how does that benefits coordinator still support in the same manner that is happening right now that people have come to expect? And there is concern about removal of access to things that help Sally do her job. And I have heard, I don't know this firsthand, but I've heard that that is something that has been a big change for EEA's benefits person is that there's been a removal of some like access to certain things. And so when someone's trying to do this work and they get accustomed to doing it a certain way and that's stripped away, then like, what do they do instead? That's, yeah.
If you are concerned too about our proposal, like you said, potentially, and if there's need for discipline, our proposal doesn't remove a pathway for discipline, right? Still a bargaining unit member managed by risk management, overseen by the Joint Benefits Committee.
Yeah, it
Right.
just can get messy if it's like, is it union activity or is it just in your regular,
Yeah.
you know,
Like Teresa
regular
said,
job duties? It's just that can
union,
get,
sorry.
well, yeah, that can just get,
Yeah.
I-
Union activity, I put in release time for. So that's just the way that it is. And
Yeah.
and that's the way that it would stay, I believe. So um when I'm talking about that I am, you know, the benefits coordinator, whomever it is, right, manages the sick leave bank, which is a union negotiated benefit, manages PEP funds, which is a union negotiated benefit. They are managing that service for all of the bargaining unit members, not just members, right? So um, it, it's not like when I'm doing PEP funds or the benefits coordinator is approving a PEP funds request for doing union work, right? We are doing a union negotiated benefit. We are managing that, which benefits all bargaining unit members, but it's not specifically unit. It's not union work per se, right? So union work as it stands, again, that is put in frontline as time release. You've got the person that approves all of that right there. And that's the process that's been done. And like I said, we're not proposing that the work changes. We're proposing that we hold on to the association's ability. Are you okay? To have input and feedback into who gets hired into that position and ensure that whomever gets hired into that position is a member so that they always, I guess, appreciate and respect and hold the value of the work that was put in for those benefits, right? To be in our contract, as well as the position. The position wouldn't have existed without OSEA. So there are things that historically are really important to OSEA. If you're worried about discipline or union actions, we can talk about that.
I think if you're bringing up discipline too, then that would put the burden of discipline on OSEA for something that might happen in a school relational situation amongst employees, right? Like, I think that that's kind of a strange idea, and we'll talk about that more, I guess.
I'm not, sorry, I don't understand.
So someone could do something that violates a policy, whether it's a union directed position or not. And so if it's a union release time, and so you're saying that I think that you would just want it to be release time so that you wouldn't have to deal with discipline for a release time employee. But then OSCA deals with a disciplinary thing potentially if a person in that position violated some policy or wasn't showing up for work, or any of the things that people get called in for discipline for, then OSCA is managing that. Is that what you're saying? Should what you would want to happen with this position? So like we'd be managing their
Not ex-
attendance and their work performance, and you know, I want to really understand if that's the intention, because then that makes us a boss essentially. Also, our union is the boss of someone to make sure they show up to work. Um, Again, I just want to understand if that's how does that work? Because you brought up discipline. If that person in that position punches someone in the face at work. I mean, any kind of disciplinary thing could happen. Who's responsible for that then?
Yeah, good question. That's what we're struggling with, especially under the form of the proposal. It's cleaner when it's, well,
But cleaner for who, really?
yeah, I
Like if the district would have no say over someone violating policies or doing something egregious, and the union's like, too bad, so sad, they get to still do their job and you all have no control over to say otherwise or discipline that person.
I think I'm not trying to go down this road.
Well, I think you opened it up when you talked about discipline. And so it's making me wonder and making me really concerned about what that could look like.